Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like up. Adam has a proposal for Chelsea in this week's video preview for The Young and the Restless. Plus, time may finally be up for Jordan as Claire appears to recognize her aunt for the second time. After blowing up their relationships with Sally and Billy and giving into a moment of passion in Baltimore, Adam and Chelsea have worked together to give Connor a more stable life and deal with his OCD. This week, Adam tries to convince Chelsea that they should consider living under one roof at the ranch as it would help Connor heal. But is that the only reason Adam suggests they move in with one another? As half of Genoa City took time out of their busy schedule to threaten Ian's life, Jordan stashed Sharon in a dank cold sewer, the same one she killed Cameron in. So, no wonder Sharon conjured his ghost back from the dead. Coming up, Sharon mutters about finding some way out of the sewer, and then spots a black crowbar within reach. Well, isn't that convenient? Finally, the jig looks to be up for Jordan. Claire's guard was already up when she ran into a strange woman at Crimson Lights who ordered her tea exactly as her Aunt Jordan did. Missing Claire, it seems Jordan pushes her luck too far next week. Claire comes up behind Jordan, in disguise, in Crimson Lights. She hears her thank the barista and asks, "Jordan?" Jordan looks panicky and hustles out the door without turning around to show her face. Be sure to read The Young and Restless spoilers to learn who Victoria finds common ground with and who Victor becomes suspicious of. The sun was setting, casting a warm orange glow over the small town of Ashbrook. The streets were quiet, save for the occasional rustling of leaves as they danced in the gentle breeze. Claire, a young girl of 12, stood at the edge of the old wooden porch, her hand resting on the cool railing. She had been living in Ashbrook for the past few months with her parents, after they moved from the city. The transition had been harder than she anticipated, and though she was beginning to make new friends at school, something was still missing. Her parents were away on a weekend trip to visit some relatives, leaving Claire in the care of her Aunt Jordan. Aunt Jordan, a free-spirited woman in her late 30s, had always been a mystery to Claire. The two had shared a connection, but it had always been subtle, like something buried beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to resurface. Claire had seen Aunt Jordan only a handful of times before, but she had always felt an odd pull toward her. There was something in the way Aunt Jordan smiled, something in the way her eyes sparkled with a mixture of mischief and understanding, that intrigued Claire. That evening, as the sun dipped lower, Claire heard the familiar sound of a car engine approaching. The gravel beneath the tires crunched as it slowed to a stop in front of the house. Claire turned her head, her heart beating a little faster, as the car door opened and out stepped Aunt Jordan. Claire hadn't seen her aunt in a couple of months, but the moment her eyes landed on Aunt Jordan, a wave of recognition swept over her. It wasn't just a recognition of the woman herself, though that was certainly part of it. It was as though Claire was seeing her aunt for the first time, truly seeing her. Aunt Jordan stood there for a moment, taking in the evening air, her long dark hair fluttering in the wind. She wore a loose bohemian dress that swayed with her movements, and her laughter, soft and melodic, seemed to echo in the air around her. Claire couldn't explain it, but there was something different about her now, something that made Claire's heart race and her thoughts scatter. Aunt Jordan looked up and saw Claire standing on the porch, her expression softening. With a warm smile, she walked up to the porch and gave Claire a tight hug. Claire hesitated for a moment, the weight of her aunt's question hanging in the air. There was something about Aunt Jordan's gaze that made Claire feel understood, as though her aunt could see through all the layers she had put up. Claire's parents had always been busy, and though they loved her, they couldn't seem to understand the parts of her that felt restless, or the parts that longed for something more. "It's okay," Claire finally said, though the words felt too small to describe everything she had been feeling. Aunt Jordan raised an eyebrow, sensing the unspoken truth. "Just okay." "Huh." Claire nodded, shrugging. "I don't really fit in here, Aunt Jordan. I miss the city. I miss the people I knew. Everything feels slow." Aunt Jordan smiled knowingly, as if she had heard those words many times before, perhaps from her own younger self. "I get it," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Change is hard, especially when it feels like you're losing a piece of yourself. But sometimes it's in the places where we feel lost that we find who we're really supposed to be." The words hit Claire in a way she hadn't expected. She had always thought of her aunt as someone who lived a life of constant change, someone who was unrooted and free. But there was something in her words, something solid, like an anchor, that made Claire realize her aunt had a deeper understanding of life than she had ever given her credit for. Aunt Jordan gently lifted Claire's chin with one hand, guiding her gaze back up. "You're not alone, Claire, and sometimes it takes a little while to find the right path. But you'll get there." Claire didn't respond, but she felt something shift inside her. The world around her suddenly felt a little less heavy, a little more hopeful. Maybe Aunt Jordan was right. Maybe she just needed more time. The evening wore on, and the two of them spent the rest of the night talking. Aunt Jordan shared stories from her travels, places she had been, people she had met, and Claire listened, captivated by the vivid pictures her aunt painted with words. In turn, Claire began to open up about her struggles in Ashbrook, about the loneliness she sometimes felt, and about the things that made her feel out of place. As they sat on the porch, the stars began to twinkle above them, casting a soft glow on the world. Claire's gaze wandered to the horizon, where the last traces of daylight were fading away. Aunt Jordan broke the silence with a soft laugh. "You know, when I was your age, I used to think the stars had secret messages for me," she said, looking up at the sky. "I'd lie outside for hours, trying to decode them." Claire glanced at her aunt, a smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "Did you ever figure out what they were saying?" For the first time, since moving to Ashbrook, Claire felt as though she understood what her aunt meant. Life wasn't always about having all the answers or figuring everything out right away. Sometimes it was about embracing the journey, no matter how uncertain it seemed. And Aunt Jordan, in her own way, had always known that. As the night drew to a close, Claire and Aunt Jordan sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars twinkle above. Claire wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of peace. Maybe Ashbrook wasn't so bad after all. Maybe this was exactly where she was supposed to be. When her parents returned the next day, Claire greeted them with a new lightness in her heart. She had spent time with Aunt Jordan, and in those moments, something had shifted. Something had clicked. Claire didn't need to have everything figured out, but she now knew that her aunt would always be there, a guiding presence in her life. And as Claire glanced back at her aunt, she realized that the recognition she had felt earlier wasn't just about seeing her aunt in the moment. It was about recognizing something deep within herself, a strength, a quiet wisdom, and a sense of belonging that she hadn't known she was searching for.